welcome to my little studio space here. It really is small and cluttered, but I'm hoping to make that an advantage today because I'm going to paint that setup over there, which is just some of the clutter in this room. And I've got paintings, there's a mirror, there's a lamp on, and I think it's going to make quite an interesting subject to study today. I have used the viewfinder to decide what part of this I'm going to focus on. Obviously I could have quite a lot of the room in here, but I've decided that actually the most interesting part of this is all the clutter and paraphernalia on that chest of drawers there. It's a nice sunny morning actually for a change, so there's some good light pouring through the skylight in this space, which should make for quite a dramatic sense of light and dark in this painting. I'm going to be using acrylic paints and I'll show you which colours I'm going to use. Thanks. See you later. Right, I've just moved things around a little bit to make sure that when I'm painting I've got a really good view of the subject. It's really important that you have it close to your eye line when you're painting, so you're not looking around the board trying to see your subject. You need to make it easy so that you can see it and instantly make the marks on here that you need to do. So you won't be able to see that, but I can. But you have got a good view of this, I hope, and you'll be able to see the painting progress. So on my cheap plastic palette, which does have a good lid, which enables me to keep the paint moist while I have to leave it, if I have to leave it, and I've got titanium white, cadmium yellow, alizarin red, French ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. And I've got some of the slow drying medium on the end there, and I might need a bit more of that in a minute, which helps with the flow of the paint, but also helps just to kind of move it around on the paper as well. This is watercolour paper that I've primed with pale umber acrylic paint, which seals the paper. It stops it drawing all the water out of the paint when I put it on, but it also gives it this nice buff colour, so if I leave any gaps between the brush marks, this will work as a kind of mid-tone to fill the gaps. I won't have empty white spaces on here. Alright, so I'm going to sketch out now the basic plan for this painting and then take it from there. I've got fresh water in a jar here for rinsing the brush, and I've got some kitchen roll as well for drying the brush off. Okay, let's make a start. So the light has changed a bit. Like most people, I wasn't able to start immediately, so the light has moved around a little bit. So I'm dealing with that change in the subject. I've still got the lamp on. I had to go off and make some soup for lunch, but that's sat down there stewing now, and I can just get this plan in place, I hope. Got the hoover here, leaning over here. So I think the big thing for me is the lamp. So I'm going to put that in first, and I'm squinting at my subject as I'm just going to tilt the board slightly. It's in the way, you can still see it. So over here there's a corner of the room. I'm just going to put some marks down. Try and get perspective in on this corner of the room. And then there's dark here around the lamp, and I've got this little pink lamp which is switched on. I'm sort of looking through one eye almost and squinting at it. It's dark on that side. And then behind it is the shelf from the mirror. So I'm kind of putting that lamp on that cross where the lines that mark the thirds would be. So it's sort of there, which is a good place to put a feature, a focal point in your work. Kind of hoping that the objects on this surface will kind of lead you towards that focal point. But obviously there's an awful lot here. It's a busy little space. I just want some runny paint, just adding a little bit more water. I'm holding the brush at the end of the handle. I don't want to make tight, precise marks at this point. I just want to kind of scribble around and see if I can build this painting out of the blank surface. There's a square, no there isn't, there's a rectangular little painting tucked in there. And then there's a basket in the front with some holly and ivy in that I'd collected for what I had hoped would be some Christmas paintings, but they haven't really materialised, but that's okay. The speaker there. I do usually have music on when I'm painting. Love to paint to music, all different sorts of music. And that's a little Bluetooth speaker there. Little black speaker in the centre of the cupboard top there, chest of drawers. The other thing here is a pink, lilac pig that belongs to the dog, Squeaky Pig. So I'll get that in. I'm just looking for dark and light groupings of objects here, really. So the cupboard top is quite dark there where it's in shadow. I'm just using French ultramarine and burnt umber together, just to make sort of dark shadowy colours. And then at the end here, the Hoover vacuum cleaner pipe comes over here, and it's just normal everyday things. You know, it stands there collecting dust but in the wrong way. Doesn't do a lot of hoovering, but never mind, can't do it all. I think it's very hard to be a painter if you want a perfect house too, unless you have plenty of money and can pay somebody else to do it. Some things just have to slide a bit. Even if you're painting just as a hobby, if you're not trying to do it professionally, trying to find the time in a busy life is so difficult. It really is something you need to make time for and make an appointment with yourself for. Otherwise it just gets pushed aside all the time by other things in life. So these are these little shelves. I'm going to have to go in a minute. Be back soon. So what I'm looking for at this stage is the relationships between all the different parts of that subject. So there'll be things like the way these two shelves, which are symmetrical on the mirror, how they relate to each other as I look at them. And if I hold my paintbrush horizontally across the scene here from my point of view, the shelf on this side is slightly lower than that one there, and that's because I'm stood at an angle to it. It's a bit of perspective happening, so I can mark that in there, and there's dark shadow under it too. It's so helpful to do this, to use anything you've got to hand, a pencil, a straight edge of any sort, just to work out where your verticals and horizontals are. So on the side of the chest of drawers, if I was painting that, I could hold the brush up against that and check that it's level, that sort of thing. This edge going away from me, I can look at the angle there in relation to the vertical paintbrush. Hold it vertically, don't need to lean it backwards or forwards, just hold it vertically, and it will show you the angle that it's departing from vertical or horizontal. This is a bit of a rough brush, but it doesn't matter too much with this sort of work. Just kind of slabbing things in. All sorts of little objects on here. I've made that pig too big, I think. So it's much smaller. So as the Hoover comes across there, and I need to just adjust that a little bit. And then there's a book here. I haven't arranged anything on here. This is just kind of as it was, really. And then I'm also looking at the empty spaces here. So there's a sort of rectangular space here with the mirror sticking into it. And I can also see the back of that chest of drawers going across like that. And again, I can hold the brush level, and I can see that angle between the level brush and the angle of the top of the cupboard receding back there. So that little basket is quite dark there. There's a bit of a gap, and there's the base of the mirror, the base of the lamp there. And it's now casting a nice little shadow there because the sun's coming through the window from that angle there. And there's curtains through the back. So it's reflecting the other window here. Just move that up. So I'm getting a shadow cast on it. Just looking at that, the top of these curtains in relation to the top of that lamp. Actually it goes up quite high, that goes up higher. It's more like the edge of the window there. So it's just placing things, looking at the relationships between all these different elements in this subject and not worrying too much about one thing at all. I'm not getting drawn into any sort of detail, just going round and round, placing things, checking things and making broad marks where there's areas of light and dark and building it up. So that's pretty much a decent start there. Put that little cloth under there and the top of the chest of drawers. So that's my initial plan. I'm going to go to a time lapse now and start building this up. As you can see, we've got general shapes. I've got markers where everything needs to go really. And now I shall start to refine this and add more lights and darks. And I will be looking for how to describe the changes in colour and tone through here as I go along. Okay. I've decided to finish the painting at this point. Obviously I could carry on and refine it, but I like the energy that it's got at the moment and I think it is doing what I wanted it to do. We've worked in here now from a bright sunny morning into a very dull afternoon, and so having the lamp on in the corner here has really saved this subject because it's now giving a warm glow to an otherwise very grey scene. but I love the way that that now catches the eye. It's become the focal point of the painting, and all these other things are just sort of background interest. I do like the little purple pig in the foreground because I think that's a bit of real life, because you know, that's the kind of stuff that hangs around in my studio, as well as the unused Hoover. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me, and I hope to see you again. Bye bye.